talk about the clan plant badge that had come up in discussion on the group recently.
Yes, regale us with your stories.
It's not that complicated, to be honest, but the point is somebody had posed a picture of I think it was a Balmoral with a cap badge and a pheasant feather in it. And so the discussion went on for some time about whether you should do that or not. Feathers typically are a symbol of rank in clan societies, and a pheasant feather is not one of the feathers that typically is flagged as being an insignia. But it's easy for people to think maybe it's supposed to be, and they don't quite get that it's not any feather. It's supposed to be an eagle feather or an approximation of an eagle feather, which symbolizes the rank. So what do you do if you want to have a feather, a little extra pizzazz? And different ideas got batted around, and I said, well, why don't you do a plant badge? I mean, we live in the age of plastic plants. You could actually have one that you never have to worry about replacing because it's artificial. So why not have that as part of your kit? And so, Noah and I guess a couple other people are just wondering, well, what's the deal with plant badges? They were a legit thing. I at one time had thought that they were more of a modern affectation, like so many things that we deal with of the Victorians. It turns out they were guilty of codifying it, and taking it to the nth degree, the way they did with everything, because they loved categorizing. But plant badges actually have been documented as far back as the late 16th and 17th century. I think it's, I wrote it down because I always forget his name, Martin, in his description of the Western Islands and
How do you forget Martin? He's the man with two first names.
Because he's the man with two first names. Because I'm horrible with names. Because I'm lislexic.
I have no idea what
Don't
you're talking
hire
about.
a lislexic historian, okay? But he wrote in 1703 this is one of the earliest travel logs of Scotland, okay? And he mentioned then, and there were some other writers who did too, how clansmen would use a piece of a local plant to stick into their hats as an identifier, particularly in a battlefield situation or, team sports. But the idea was that it was cheap, free, it was easy to obtain, and different groups just adopted it because it was an easy way to. It's like shirts and skins, in the Highlands, basically. It's like, okay, they're all wearing a fern in their hat, so we'll all wear a thistle, and that way you know who to hit. That's basically what it was. And again, by the late 18th and well into the 19th century, it gets codified. Logan in the Scottish Gael in 1830. See, I do remember one without looking. He has it all.
It's a book.
It's a book, sorry. And the McKeon prints, same thing. Basically, they just list it out as this is the official thing and has been since the beginning of time. And I guess some clans probably didn't actually have one, but then suddenly in the Victorian age, everybody's got to have one, so here you go. The point is they're legit, and they're actually older than the use of a clan crest badge, like the whole thing everybody wears with the, the design inside the heraldic belt is actually a more recent invention. It dates to after the proscriptions were lifted. So again, it's another way to differentiate yourself and to show off your pride in your clan. It's extremely historic. And I figure, what the heck? People don't seem to do it that much anymore. Rocky seemed to think you had some anecdote about the Fighting 69th,
the Irish Brigade with the boxwoods.
The boxwoods of then I've seen there's a comment here that somebody wears juniper.
Mm-hmm.
But would it actually be something that identifies the person in battle? It's not like, I'm thinking like heraldic shield, where, okay, that's a big visual representation of who I am.
We're talking up close. We're talking up close and personal,
I understand,
obviously.
But are you really going into battle like, huh, okay, I can kill you?
No, because it was part of a system. It's basically you had the plant badge, but then you also had the war cry. The war cry is as important and even older probably than the plant badges. But basically, you went in yelling, whatever the war cry of the clan was. Sometimes it's just the family name, if you didn't have one. But it was a way of confirmation up close, I think.
But
and honestly, there's something
to
be said for esprit de corps also. I mean, whether it's practical or not on the battlefield, if it helps psychologically draw your men together before the battle, then it's useful. You know what I mean?
I remember Jamesy talking about bagpipes, and in his mind, bagpipes would be like the amp up music of the day. Like this is how you get men psyched up for battle.
Okay.
But wait,
folks, we have fun here, don't we? Yes, we do. But if you want the fun to keep going, we need support from you on your end. Please give us a follow, a like, a subscribe, and tell your friends about these videos so we can make more of them. And then now back to the question.
Can I continue now?
You may.
I am not doubting you, but in my brain, I'm saying you did a lot more research than I would.
It's a thing they did.
I know it feels weird to have like a tiny little. It'd be like judging people today on like collar dogs. Oh, are those collar dogs different?
You're making an assumption about the size. It's entirely possible these guys had a pretty sizable sprig. I mean, we don't know how big. I mean, some of them are like oak leaves. You're only going to have so big an oak leaf, but
I can't see myself knowing botany that well to be able to judge.
You're a modern person living in a carpentered world.
But it's no different than a shoulder patch.
Right.
Because everyone's wearing the same thing. So it's just, that's your identifier to your group. So even though everybody's wearing the same uniform, the shoulder patches are different. Or we're going back to Civil War, and they have the boxwood in there. They're all wearing blue uniforms, and it's something as an identifier.
Yeah.
And I'd be willing to bet that if you were a neighbor clan and you knew that so-and-so was using juniper, you would try to find something that would be very obviously not juniper. That would be easier for you as someone who lives in the environment and knows all these plants like the back of your hand. You're like, okay, this looks as unlike juniper as possible. What's always gotten me about plant badges is like, what do you do in the winter? Nobody's using them in the winter, but again, fighting was often seasonal pre-modernly also. So
well, and according to this comment, all ancient Scots were expert botanists, and they could tell a one leaf or twig from another at 100 yards. So.
It's true.
Now, with the Irish Brigade and the boxwood thing, isn't that kind of the misnomer? They did like one guy might have actually done it, but it wasn't.
Yeah, it's not a whole like.
It's not as much of a thing as people make it out to be a thing.
It's.
Yeah. You've got at least two documentable sources from the 17th century saying it's a thing, and then you have mentions of plants being associated with clans in folk songs, which go back to the Middle Ages. You don't have a reference of them wearing them, but you do have poems and songs where the MacLeods, the mighty oaks, or whatever, where their clans were associated with plants. Back then, it's a song, so there's nothing that apparently has been written. It's like, and he stuck a pine tree on his head and went into battle.
I believe the officialness of clan I am clan chief of MacLeod, and I'm going to choose oak as our clan. Any nation has a national symbol, the eagle, or or the thistle for Scotland, or whatever it is. Like I could see that. It's where it falls. Again, I don't know. Where my spidey senses start to tingle is as an identifier of a person in a high-stress situation, close quarters battle, where there's a bunch of arms and swords flailing.
I can agree.
Like, I'm not stopping to check. Like, that's...
Okay, but I can tell you this. In the SCA, at Pennsic War, anyone who's allied with the East Kingdom will have some blue tape on their helm, and anybody who's allied with the Mid-Realm will have red tape. Now it's color-coded, so it's a lot easier to spot, I admit. But it's not necessarily a lot. I mean, it's just like a couple of spots here, here, and here. And you figure it out pretty damn quick.
Fair.
So, I don't know. I mean, in a modern context, again, I think it could be fun and festive. I think it'd be a great thing to see at festivals, at volunteers at clan tents using it. It's another point of conversation. It's a cool thing, which I think a lot of people have never heard of. The fact that this came up in our group being evidence, is like, it's really cool, and it's very pleasantly barbaric. I love it for that, So I don't know.
It's a talking point.
It is a talking point.
Why do you have some leaves in your hat?
I think it would work. I personally think it would work.
Okay,
but
I mean, to kind of go on your point a little bit, Rocky. How much of it was just if how much of it documented is them leaving a particular area and loved ones giving them a piece of home to leave.
It's a bit of good luck.
Sure.
Yeah, so
Sure.
you have that, not necessarily is worn in combat all the time, but it's a little piece of home that you're taking with you.
like
My wife didn't give me a branch.
but no, you're right. I mean, it's and that you're making me think of women giving the men flowers as they marched off in World War One.
Yep.
You get your Edelweiss, or you get your Daisy or whatever, and it's like, yeah.
You see tons of photos of the Germans with them stuck in the end of the barrel.
Exactly. I think there's a psychological factor to this that's as important or more important and maybe more legit than inspection before you take the shot. So
Yeah.
yeah. Anyway, why not? It's fun. Go for it.
We should ask ChatGPT. No. Okay. All right. That was.
Big cedar tree.
It is a log.
You know who did it the best? It was the Japanese, because they invented the sashimono, which is basically a flag that you'd wear on the back of your armor, and even low-ranking soldiers were given them. They're mass-produced, and it's like so a general could sit up on the hill and just see all of his guys in an instant. You could tell what was going on. Yeah. Sorry, nothing to do with Scotland, but I love Japan.
I got nowhere to go with that.
All right. Hold very, very still. Ready? If you want to know more about clan traditions and history of Scotland, check out the blog on the usakilts.com website. We're compiling a lot of information there you might find interesting. All right, where was I?
Over here.